Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Dystopia. I'm your host Matt Davidson and I'm joined by my colleague as always Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty well, Andrew. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
Yes, it's nice to be back at Dystopia headquarters again, back in your old humble place.
It is. I felt, listening back to last week's episode, there was a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, there's maybe a slight one, but it still passes though, I think.
Yeah, we're in the early days of it. Should be all right.
Yeah. I mean, you got the free drinks out of it, mate. That's what matters.
Yeah. Actually, but what are we on? This week we are on Four Pines Brewing, a Japanese-style lager. What do you think?
Yeah, very nice, actually.
You tried this one before, or you?
No, I haven't, actually. So, yeah, I'm quite enjoying it at the moment. I mean, is it in the same class as the old Stonewood Crisp Lager, the Green Coast?
Green Coast, nah.
Yeah. We still want them to sponsor the show, so we'll keep putting out the send out. So, yeah, Stonewood, you're hearing us? Please sponsor us. Well, anyway, in today's episode, we're going to go into the short story by Henry Slesar called Examination Day. Last week's episode, we delved into the universe. Slesar, indeed.
Sorry,
yeah. We delved into the world of the Purge movie series. I guess Examination Day kind of has some similar elements to it, but not as depraved, I would say, as some of the stuff you see in the Purge.
Yeah, it's I think definitely humanity is worse, but there's a little more, how should we say, class, or it's slightly more subtle in this one, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's more homogenized, I'd say, as opposed to the Purge, where it's just like anything goes on a particular day where you can kill people in the most horrific manner, where this is like more standardized number-based thing as opposed to, random slaughter.
Yeah, well, they're almost like identifying the problem before it becomes a problem in their eyes, right? Like it's just civilization's got to that point now where, yeah, they picked it out, and it's almost social engineering basically.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get into it though, I think we should, like we did with previous episodes, just do a bit of backstory on the author and how he came up with the story and things like that. So, so Henry Slesar himself, American author, born in the late 1920s, so very similar to actually Harlan Ellison, born at the same kind of time period where, in between World War II and the Cold War, and so you can see, like, similar as well, they're building their worldviews around these, popping up political systems,
Yeah, lots of change in the world, right? I guess the communism, fascism, I guess it was all a bit of a reaction to the Great Depression, really, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
So 1927 he was born, right?
Yeah, that's correct. He was born in New York City in 1927, and then obviously during school he had a thing for writing, really enjoyed it. But interesting enough, he left school at 17 to work various jobs. So he would have been 17, right in the middle of World War II. So I'm assuming earning money would have been a very big priority for him because, helping the family out, things like that. But it seems here that he got into copywriting initially. So he worked in the advertising industry, and apparently to one of his most famous, he came up with the phrase "coffee break" for Pan Am American coffee bureaus in one of their campaigns in the 50s. So
there we are.
Yeah, so that's how he made a bit of money initially, and then got into writing short stories and working on his own things as opposed to just focusing on the advertising sector.
But I believe he actually did a bit of work for Alfred Hitchcock as well, didn't he?
Yeah, eventually. So he worked for Alfred Hitchcock's mystery magazine, which I think was a big deal back in the day. It was a lot of people would read it and follow it whatever came out monthly or things like that. So, and as we know too, Alfred Hitchcock was one of the big pioneer movie makers and television shows as well. I think he had his own Twilight Zone thing called the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, I think.
Yeah.
So and apparently he's a staff writer on that as well. So he wrote a lot of episodes and helped out produce that as well. So.
Yeah, cool. Doing a bit of research on it, one thing I picked up is he was the master of he loved irony, but above all, he loved the twist ending. So it was almost like M. Night Shyamalan before M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, exactly. Or similar to Hitchcock's Psycho, where you see the ending where you don't really see it coming, right? Where Norman Bates ends up being his mother all along, kind of thing. So sorry for spoilers there if you haven't seen it. The film did come out in 1960, so yeah, one of the most famous twists of all time. So. But interesting enough, he wrote this particular short story back in 1958 in in a very famous magazine that's still kind of relevant today called Playboy. I'm assuming most men, read it for the articles like we all do. So,
Yeah, well, I'm sure. What else would they be buying it for?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Can you imagine the post-nut clarity on that?
yeah, it's like, it's making me change my worldview. Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. It's going a bit off topic, isn't it? It's going to be a bit R-rated now. Yeah, might have to. The episode might get pulled off bloody Apple Podcasts and Spotify and stuff.
Possibly.
Yeah. It says here too that also, like later on, he became the head writer for the soap opera The Edge of the Night, which had over 300 episodes, and that ran from the span of 1968 to 1984. So he ended up winning a daytime Emmy for that. So so it seems like he had a kind of bit of a footing in a lot of different type of writing and TV and movie industry. So he was all over the shop like that. So,
Yeah. He's I think reading he was doing like a story a week or something.
Yeah, just must have been a machine.
Yeah.
Just pumping out stories and very creative. He's obviously must be like a strong critical thinker and creative and just very disciplined too to do that. So
Yeah, and I think look, this is one of the things I'm really enjoying doing this podcast is actually I'd never heard of this before and we're looking for subjects to do. This is kind of why I wanted to do this, to actually finding out this bloke's history and all that sort of thing. It's really cool. I think it's worth mentioning, like 1958 when this story was written, examination day, looking at the world and the influences of the world that would have led to this. We've mentioned the Second World War, we've mentioned the governmental changes, all that sort of thing. I think the McCarthy era would have been a huge part, right?
Definitely, yeah. That was around the Red Scare era with Joseph McCarthy running things and accusing people left, right, instead of being a commie and thing. Yeah.
Well, it was almost like the witch hunt, and it was almost intellectuals, right? Critical thinkers, people who thought a little bit differently.
On college campuses,
accused of communists and sort of things. That theme is heavily. I mean, it's the central theme of the story we're about to go into.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's heavily referenced a lot.
Yeah. You've got the Nazi regime. You've got Stalin's purges. Intelligence, critical thinkers are always the enemy of authoritarian governments, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always like doing that. It's no surprise why he would have written something like this, and looking at their influences, as the world he would have lived in at such a seminal age. He would have been in his 20s, at that time. The Second World War and McCarthyism, and there's notable regimes after that. Okay, there's Maoist China, right?
And a similar time, right? Yeah, around
1949.
49. Yeah, so that would have definitely been a factor as well.
Where I believe Mao bloody turned China into like an agrarian society, and almost humiliated intellectuals, professionals, all that sort of stuff, and they were thrown in labor camps and all that kind of thing. So, it's not as if he's writing on, all right, what he's going on is a little bit far-fetched, or is it?
Yeah.
But there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, there's a reason why, too, they still use this story in education today. So, like, in America, a lot of either middle or high school, it's one of the texts that people read to examine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's still taught because obviously explores, like, many dystopian themes and about critical thinking, and then, ironically enough, it's kind of you'd say it's a kind of a critique of the education system at the same time, where a lot of tests are standardized testing and things like that. So,
actually, funnily enough, reading standardized testing, I think actually came in around this time as well. So I don't know if it was always written it was almost written as a response to that too.
Yeah, it definitely could have been. Doing research, it's a bit hard to find like exactly all the motivations or thought behind it, because he seems like a bit more of a private person kind of thing. He's not like you wouldn't say he's like a world-renowned author, right? So,
no.
Because we haven't really heard of him before we went into this episode. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to really understand like the critical thinking behind him coming up with the story and what he was trying to say about the society at the time and why he wanted to kind of be relevant going forward in the future. So,
what do I say, for a 10-minute watch and really a 10-minute read, it's
3 pages. Like but it evokes so many different themes and no, it's quite very thought provoking. So,
should we do as we always do and read the plot on Wikipedia?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, so let's do that. So obviously this is the plot for this got taken on examination day for a Twilight Zone episode. On the 1st of November 1985 this was aired. So I will it's a very short plot, so not like the other ones I'll be reading of late. So we get started. Dickie Jordan is an intelligent and curious youth. He and his family live in a dystopian future. On Dickie's 12th birthday, he is required by law to undergo an intelligence examination. Dickie's birthday wish is to do well on his exam. His parents appear stressed and avoid his questions. When the time comes, his father brings him to a government testing facility. There he is given a serum to ensure he tells the truth and given a series of intelligence assessment questions. After the test is complete, Dickie's parents are contacted by the government and told that Dickie's intelligence exceeded the legal limit, and so he was executed. The parents burst into tears as the government examiners ask them how they would like to handle their son's remains, whether his body should be interred by the government or if they would prefer a private burial.
Yeah, wow, like I remember reading that obviously we're doing the Twilight episode is the TV show version of it, and then the book itself. But in the television show doesn't really go into it or explain that. But in the book, it basically says, would you like a private burial or pay $10 government fee to bury your son that we just put down? Basically, very.
It makes me wonder why they missed that in the Twilight Zone episode. Like, did they, because they only had 10 minutes to do it, did they leave it up for a reason, just to cut it short, or? Well, it's a massive point of that story, I feel. Yeah,
maybe they're focusing more on like seeing the parents' emotions straight up and them crying and consoling each other, where a book can't really. The story just ends there, right? It doesn't go into further detail. Where in the episode it kind of shows them upset and sad, and then it fades away, kind of thing. So maybe they thought, that best represents their anguish as opposed to showing that. But I think the book's a lot more, definitely more like harrowing in a way, because it's just so dehumanized. It's just a.
Yeah, and therefore I think that like asking for the $10 really hits that point home. Like, it's just like, all right, well this is done. There's no emotion.
It's just another day at the office for them, right?
No, the office.
He's number 615, blah blah blah. Here, exterminated. Yeah, pay the fee. Thanks. Next one.
Yeah, and it's like a system they all live in. I guess the parents accept the system. They didn't even get to say goodbye to him. Like, it's that whole. Yeah, I just thought it was a massively important. I feel like it's strange why they left it out. There's a couple of other things as well, and I think one of the biggest things for me is a particular bit in the. So if you watch the show, and you'll see Dickie. So it starts raining, and he asks the questions. Oh, why does it have to rain? And then it's on his birthday. He doesn't want it to rain, but then why does it have to rain today? And it sort of goes there, Dickie, the grass will be green, blah, blah, blah. And okay, fair enough. In the book, or in the short story, he kind of goes further, why does it rain? Why does the grass go green? Why does this happen? Why does that happen?
How far away from the sun? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is, son. That's just the way it is. Stop questioning. And there's a few different things on, like, the show would almost, to me, suggest that, like, intelligence it's like a rudimentary thing. It's like, if you hit this sort of, if you pass this mark or you go above this mark, then obviously you're a threat. Where the short story, I think, hits on more critical thinking a little bit more, wanting to know why and exploring. I think that's the danger. I think that's more the danger of authoritarian regimes, right? Like, I don't know what you think of it.
Yeah, no, definitely same kind of feelings. And I guess what the show does is, the way they do it is where they say, the TV channel, watch some TV, Dickie. He goes, no, I want to read my books. That's like their subtle way of hinting at, he's going towards more wanting to be intellectual as opposed just to watching the TV like everyone else does. So I think that's where they'll try and do it that way, but it's definitely not as effective as the book. Yeah,
and in both as well, like, I feel like it shows where, like, that precise bit where go and watch the TV and he reads his book, when the parents are sort of looking at each other like a little bit alarmed, like, oh shit,
Yeah, he's ticking the boxes now, isn't he?
Could they not have done a better job of trying to dumb the kid down? Like,
feeding him some lead paint or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I feel like them bringing him up, like, they could have influenced him a bit more. I feel like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I really like it. I really like how much the thoughts, like the thought provokingness of the story. But then I feel like I was watching it and I'm like, well, why don't they just tell the kid about the test and dumb him down? And then they get into the point of the actual serum that he drinks.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense then, but yeah.
I feel like that serum's a pretty fucking convenient, like, plot device.
Yeah, the whole point is that it's like somewhere in the near future, like a distant future, right? So then well, in the TV show, you see like massive buildings, like a big metropolis area with flying cars, and another interesting thing that the show does too, where they're all wearing the same type of clothing. There's no individualism at all. It's all pure bland coloring. No one stands out. Everyone just following the system, following government orders. So
yeah, and they can't really show that in the book. They imply it, but
yeah. That's why sometimes like visually can be easier to explain it as opposed to like writing it down or saying a dialogue. So like, well, that's what they're trying to portray there. What I found funny though is that when I was watching the video on YouTube, someone wrote as a comment on the video, because there's one point where they're looking outside where the rain is, and they're going, "Oh, even in the dystopian future, they've still got shitty blinds." The ones where you turn the thing. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny, but it has that to say that because it came out in 1985 and it was a PBS, I think, produced show. So like PBS is the equivalent of the BBC or the ABC here in Australia. So I don't think budget was at its highest priority for them. So you can see it's very dated with you can tell the background's a bit, it's just like a standardized background as opposed to actual proper metropolis in the background there. Yeah.
I love, what I also love is like these movies, how like they thought the future was going to look in the
year 2025. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. They don't actually say when it is, do they?
No, they don't. But it's heavily implied. It's in like a mid-distant future, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you do see flying cars in the background. So I don't know. Back to the Future thought there was going to be flying cars in 2020, didn't they? So it's
exactly.
2015.
2015. Yeah. That's 10 years ago now. So Jesus. Well, we're in 2025 and still no bloody flying cars. So
I love how these I love how they thought like it was going to look at like it looks so like camp, like
it is,
like there's like those
like the old DOS things and
the DOS and the like little globes with like the electricity like
beep, boop, beep, boop. Yeah.
So it's a bit like Star Wars actually, the first one.
It is,
very budget.
Yeah, it was a bit like the old school Star Trek episode. They got the big computer screens and the little buttons flashing. Very similar to that.
Yeah, I love all that.
Yeah, so that's great. But yeah, like I guess too, just when Dickie does eventually have to go for the testing, and you're seeing him amongst the other kids, and they refer to him as like as a number, and it's very, I wouldn't say it's demoralizing, but it's just very standardized, isn't it? So. I think Slesar was trying to imply, like, with these kind of, if the society happened to be like, everyone's homogenized in that way, and there's no individualism, there's no creativity, there's no critical thought. You're just a number in the system, and if you don't meet the standards or the low standards in this case, then you're not useful to us. You're a threat. You're a danger. So you need to be exterminated.
Yeah, it implies like the test where they give them like the one bit you do hear of the test is like in both the book and the show is they talk about like there's a sequence. I'll finish this sequence. I think it's like 1, 4, 7, 10, 30. It goes like that. When I alluded to it before, do they think that is there something in the test that sees like, this kid's thinking too critically, or is it a mark, or like? I want to know more about that. You want
to go more in depth with it. I guess what's good about like these short stories, like we've done, I Have No Mouth, I Must Scream, and now this one where you kind of want to know more. Like, let's expand on it. Let's go. How did this government come in place? Why is it like this? When did it happen? Yeah,
and that's like it must have happened. Like, you look at the age of the parents. So I God knows. I mean, let's say they're in their 30s or something. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
It would imply that it's been like that throughout their childhood.
Like they grew up like that.
They grew up like that, and this is just normal because they sort of accept the system.
But interesting enough, they're kind of smart enough to realise that their son's is going to be too smart.
He's not like the other kids.
Yeah, but then I guess maybe they are stupid by not trying to dumb him down because they fit the mark. Yeah, it's one of those ones you don't know fully. Yeah.
Mm.
So, I guess too, like, what do you like? It's only like a 3-page book, right? But it's crazy how much dystopian themes has come out of it. And little things, with people talk about, in today's society, but, standardized tests, it kills creativity, and you're kind of encouraged at school to like, they want you to think, but think their way as opposed to your own thought process. And they want to, it just reminds me of being at like school, for example, where we had to do or even uni, you're doing a course for something, and then they go, but as part of this course, you need to do an electives surgery, not surgery, elective subject. And I remember thinking, why do I have to do an elective subject? It's got no relevance to
questioning it.
Yeah, questioning it. And like, it's got no relevance to what I want to learn out of this course and what I want to do in future life. So what's the point of learning this? But like, oh no, it's about expanding your horizons. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's got nothing to do with this. If I wanted to do it, then it should be added to it. But I mean, that's just me. But yeah, I think it kind of invokes those kind of thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, and look, it's fair to say we do live in a society that, I guess, intelligence is kind of mistaken for like a degree.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I feel like there's a lot of people just doing things it looks good on paper, not really questioning it, and just going like that. It looks good on paper. It's just that seems to be the norm, and you the reason for everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been caught up with that myself, to be honest with you.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, it's a bit like that movie, like Catch Me If You Can, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, where because he can forge those fake documents saying he's a doctor. People go, oh yeah, take him on his face value, and the paper says that you're a doctor, so I'll take you. Yeah,
you got the audacity to do it.
The audacity, yeah. Why would you question it? So yeah, definitely invokes that kind of thing, as you're saying. Yeah.
But yeah, we touched on it earlier. Like, I want to know how that government got into power, right? Like, it makes me, one of the things I sit there thinking of, like, one of the first things when you mentioned to me about, oh, this is a story, and I wanted to read it, I'm like, the intelligence or his intelligence is seen as a threat, and they have to do this test and blah blah blah, and he's killed. You gave away the ending, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The first thing it actually made me think of was Pol Pot in Cambodia, the Chem Rouge, because I remember someone telling me, I know someone from Cambodia, or in my job I know someone, and he was telling me that they fled Cambodia to come here because basically his father wore glasses.
They viewed intelligence as a threat, right?
Yeah, and I thought, what do you mean? He goes, well, the Khmer Rouge or Pol Pot, he basically followed like Maoist China and used that as a model and changed the whole Cambodian economy like forcefully to a agrarian one. So like farming. So he basically just forcefully like emptied the cities, professionals, doctors, anyone, and just
round them up, didn't he?
Rounded them up, took them out. See, like, just no thought of like, they're not skilled to do this. Anyone intellectual, so teachers, professionals,
even like librarians and stuff.
Librarians, that sort of thing. They were killed. Anyone who just looked smart, so anyone who wore glasses or anything, murdered, massacred. I'm like, it made me like think of this story. But then going into the story, and I said before, like it's almost like this society is like at such a point now that they don't have to do that. They can get it before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, they've already wiped out the any like resistance to what that kind of way of government system, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody just accepts the system now. This is just the way it is. This is a society we live in.
It's always been like this. It always will be like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like something we take for granted, that like, what does our government really have to gain having citizens that free think, really, when you think about it? I think of like you look at, say, Vladimir Putin now as an example. Let's just say, like Boris Johnson in the UK, when was he ousted? Like 2021, 22, I can't remember, but
yeah, it was around 2022. Around
yeah.
He seems to survive the COVID years for a couple of years.
But basically, what got him was lying to his populace. They're having the COVID parties, and he was saying to the population one thing and doing another, right? And then he had to answer the public, and he was ousted. And you always think like some of the shit Vladimir Putin's done, and he's just sitting there like laughing, thinking, like,
yeah, exactly.
It just makes me.
I reckon Boris might have wanted some Vladimir's power back then when all the stuff was coming out.
Yeah, and it just makes me think of like, I guess we really take that for granted. Like, could you imagine being in let's just say you're in Cambodia, living a normal life, you're quite intelligent, or you're perceived intelligence. So one day you're like celebrated in society. The next day, you're suddenly the enemy. Like,
you're ostracized. Yeah,
that feeling, like you're being hunted, and that it makes me think of all that. Like,
your world's just been turned upside down. Yeah, completely.
In some ways, I guess you could think of like the Russian Revolution, with the Romanovs being the population just turning on them.
Yeah.
And really, that was an intellectual that started all that, Lenin, right?
Yeah. Ironically enough, yeah.
And that's what these authoritarian regimes fear, right?
Yeah, any challenge, any thought, anything critical, anything that's against, like, opposite to what the system is, they'll try and suppress it and eliminate it. So
Yeah, so it almost makes me think of like America today, for example. You know, they stand up for, what would you say, like the world's rights, or how would you
freedom of speech,
freedom of speech, all these values,
right to bear arms, and
yeah, all that sort of stuff. But how can a populace that thinks all that also accept no healthcare system? I don't. It's almost like driven through the media that to go any other way would be communism, or like, oh, look at all these states, oh, the narrative is that, oh, like it's ruined their economies, and why should the state look after you? And it goes back to that kind of Red Scare stuff. Like it's always been baffling to me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could argue too that they're they're not an authoritarian government opposite to this kind of world, though, because they have got no healthcare, so it's down to the individual to choose. If that makes sense.
It does, but the system's also sort of rigged as well.
Like, I'm just playing devil advocate here. Like we said in the previous episode, we're talking about Medicare and things like that. We're very much, think everyone deserves a right to be treated for things like any kind of health issues. So, but I'm saying devil advocate would be if this was mirroring an American society today. I'd say that it's not. I wouldn't say it's this kind of regime. It's a different one, because I'd say they've got more freedom of choice in that way, where because they're not reliant on the government for their healthcare, they've got their own choices about it. If that makes sense.
I guess, like I feel like within reason. I feel like freedom of speech in America is all well and good as long as you don't start attacking the structure. No. Look at the way they sort of criminalized Assange and Snowden.
Well, that's always been the thing in America. It's always been, anytime you kind of reference anything military or thing like that, that's when the censorship comes in. So it's one of those things, one of the conundrums where, but then in a lot of ways I'd say their system's a lot more freer than I say Australia, because technically we don't have freedom of speech here. So you can be persecuted and under the guise of defamation. We saw that recently with that Australian YouTuber Friendly Geordies, who got charged for saying something against a government official, even though it was just a joke, right? But I find that more dystopian in a way than what's happening in the American, freedom and individuality they have over there.
Yeah. Well, he had police coming after him, special squads coming after him, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had a specialized terrorist unit go and chase him down. So,
and basically, I can't feel, what did he actually say?
Oh, I think he just hurt the guy's feelings. He was calling out all these bloody BS, and just making fun of him. So he didn't like that. So anyway, that's a different topic for another day. But that's
still pretty relevant.
Yeah, very relevant. For anyone out there, definitely check out the Friendly Geordies channel on YouTube. It's a good watch. So but,
that'll be good for the numbers here, I reckon.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
you and them could come over here.
Yeah, we'll get him on the show one day. Yeah, just another point, like when we come to just like dystopian themes on this particular short story is, I guess the sacrifice for the greater good narrative going in it. So we think of things in history, like in Nazi Germany, the T4 project, where they euthanized people with disabilities and other defects like that. And
it's because they saw it as a drain on the economy.
Drain on society. So. But in Henry Slesar's world, this is the drain on the society's intellect. So
it's a threat to the system, right?
Threat to the system, yeah. So it's kind of like saying, oh, we don't want to ruin our perfect society by having people, to imply that we don't ruin our society having people questioning the way we live and could challenge it and point out all the hypocrisies of everything. So it's best just to euthanize them, for the greater good of the
greater good. Yeah.
So funny enough, it's kind of like similar to what we talked about last week with the Purge, where going into, cleanse your soul, sacrificing, reborn, this kind of thing. So it kind of invokes those same kind of themes, right?
So Dickie would have been seen as like a sacrifice, right?
Exactly, yeah. So a bit like, popped up there, taken out for the greater good of everything. So so that, the system can keep chugging along, there's no one's challenging it, no one's questioning it. It can just continue going. Yeah.
And that's a thing we see in almost all authoritarian regimes and in like a lot of books that we read, right? It's that use of, well, that's one thing we don't get to see in this propaganda, again, because it's a 10-minute story. So it's, I would have really liked to have seen something like that, like some posters on the wall and like, oh, are you a threat to society? Like almost like a thought police or something.
A bit like Big Brother, kind of thing. I think another thing too is with it explores the, it's Dickie's 12th birthday and it goes into, oh, okay, you're getting ready with the big days coming up, Dickie. It's like, you're thinking, reading it, oh, is it because maybe the 12th birthday is like a like say in the Jewish faith, where when the boy turns 13, it's their bar mitzvah kind of event. So you're
Becoming a man.
Becoming a man. So you're thinking, oh, maybe it's going down that kind of thing, where the normalcy of, a child taking a test to see whether they're intelligent enough to, or if they're too smart for the system to be, euthanized. Like it's just so common and practiced and just everyday part of life. So, and they knew it was coming as well, where, they got the birthday cake and just, it felt very eerie in that way, where you find out later where it's going down that path where he's going to get exterminated. So it's very, but as I said, it's part of the society that they're being brought up in.
Yeah, and this is where, like, I say that the parents have got a bit of answer for. Like, they're sort of concerned, like, looking at one another, like, man, the kid's 12. Like, you knew he was going this way.
Yeah.
Why don't you try and move him the other way? You know, like, don't worry about reading, son. Just
just
watch TV.
Yeah. Put it on. In Australia, we got with a channel called 7 Mate. Just put that on. Fast cars, high octane.
Yeah.
Explosions. That's what you want. Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
Michael Bay films.
Oh, perfect. Go down that path.
Yeah, you'd be no threat to anyone watching that shit. I'm not wanting to offend anyone watching that shit, because I like some of it.
Oh, well, don't worry, we love to watch. Sometimes you need to switch your brain off. Unironically, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice not to actually have to think about anything.
Yeah.
That's why some of the best movies came out in the 90s. We are going a bit off topic, sorry.
But... Yeah. No, definitely. That's why I love the original Power Rangers movie. I don't have to think twice, I don't question the plot. I don't ask any questions, and just take it in for what it is.
There's no prequel. They're just the Power Rangers because we fucking say they are.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me.
Yeah. I'm willing to accept that. I guess, sorry, another thing to raise as well is just, we were talking before how, the parents were like, why didn't they try and dumb them down and stuff, but in this authoritarian regime, they're under, like, parents have no rights over their kids, so it's whatever, the government is overall is the ruling factor here. They've got no say in, like, oh no, my kid's not going to take the test, or they're going to do this or do that. It's like, no, government is issued this, you have to do it, and if he passes or not, that's the way it is, bad luck kind of thing. So I guess it plays into that. So I guess another thing I was going to say too with the show as well, like, you kind of, when the parents are waiting for the phone call, like, just sitting, like, could you imagine the dread of that? Just it's pretty.
She, like, the mum's sitting at the other end of the room, and, like, it's that, like, you're almost sitting there thinking, well, if I stand here, then maybe it'll be better. That whole superstition thing. You can see it.
Yeah. Or you think, I'll wear my lucky underwear today just so this kind of thing happens. But it's just, and then when the phone call comes in as well, and it's funny when they answer the call initially, like the operator doesn't sound like robotic, but he kind of sounds kind of happy in a way, but kind of normal. Like, oh, is this Mr. Blah blah blah? Yeah, Mr. Yeah. And I regret to inform you that your son didn't pass the test. He exceeds intelligence. Yeah.
But what they say first, like, we're just letting you know that your son has finished the test. It's like, oh, okay, and then unfortunately, we regret to inform you, and then you just know that. Yeah,
you said that he passed. So you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe everything's gonna be fine, but no. And then the scary thing is too, they just take him out without even the parents allowed to say goodbye or anything. Like, that's so cold and apathetic, and just really, he's just a number in the system. It's just another day for them. It's just had to be done kind of thing. Like, they couldn't even go in, say their goodbyes, or be at peace with him. And you think, it doesn't really show, but, like, I wonder how they do it, like how they put the kid down. Like, do they say, oh, we're just giving you a fun drink to have, or we're it's just
that's again for a 10-minute story. It leaves you wanting all those answers. A bit like, again, going off topic, which you generally do, but a bit like reading Animal Farm.
Yeah,
like I wanted more. Like, it leaves you like, well, what do you mean? Like,
where's it? Yeah, I want to expand on this. Yeah. It is kind of a common trope with these episodes where we're watching it, but we want to explore more. Like, just like, oh, but what happens on this day, or what happens? How did it form in this way? You want to know exactly how and why, and the after as well. I mean, this is why I love this subject. Yeah, it's where you can go so down many rabbit holes and theories, and this is when people create their own fan fiction as well for stuff like this. So like, it'd be interesting to see if they did, like, well, obviously Henry Slesar passed away, but if he could have made like a mini, like, episodic kind of thing for this kind of world with different like families and different, or like maybe show someone rebelling against it, or someone that's high in the government officials with it.
Showing the inner workings.
Inner workings, yeah, seeing how the cogs in the machine work. So I think that'd be really fascinating to see.
Yeah.
Where it goes.
I have to say, like, everyone in the society seems like, at least in the show, like really happy.
Yeah, and accepting. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one's really questioning anything. Everyone's just going along. It's not like, as opposed to like when you watch like 1984, where it's very like grungy and like people in their minds are thinking one thing, but then they're saying another thing. Where this thing feels like they're in a cult or something. They've been brainwashed, and they're just going along with the flow.
Yeah. And that's what would lead you to believe that, like, yeah, well, it's possibly been like this for 3 or 4 generations. I mean, it must have been, right?
Yeah, exactly. As we said earlier, like if the parents are going along with it and know it's coming, and then they're not even questioning it, then it must have been indoctrinated into them. So, Well, we've talked about a bit of Henry Slesar's backstory, like why he wrote it, the themes itself within the story and the TV show, what it was trying to say. I guess we should talk about why in 2025 it's still relevant today for us to read a story like this. So when you look at things, the way the world is with everything being AI, what we talked about in previous episodes, everything online in this digital age, we see in China too with their credit score systems.
Yeah.
How if you're not obeying the government line, you can be affected in that way where you can't, even just going to the grocery store, your credit system declines and you can't buy things because you don't fit that criteria, or you can't get on public transport.
Yeah, you got caught jaywalking or something. Yeah,
and there's cameras everywhere. So I guess like now it's especially the way we've got, you said, like surveillance cameras everywhere and things like that. It's a cautionary tale where if you don't, it gets to the point where a government has no pushback or there's no questioning of it. It's basically authorized to do whatever it wants. It gets to a point where everyone loses their creative freedom, creative thinking, their individualism, and those kind of things.
Yeah, and you've got to keep. I guess we live in a society where almost like journalists, not so much these days, but they almost have to act as the watchdog.
Yeah.
To report things, to keep things clean. Like we live in a time like it's probably arguably now more important than ever to like critically think because of, I guess, the role of social media and algorithms and tailoring stories that agree with your rhetoric, and then almost like reinforcing your rhetoric and
especially with all the disinformation out there, it's in
it spreads like wildfire, right?
And even with AI getting better with faking videos and stuff like that, are you thinking, is this just a bad actor, or is this actually a government thing trying to manipulate me?
Well, what did you show me earlier? Donald Trump's Gaza plan. I think.
Yeah, the AI thing he put on his official Twitter, Instagram page. Yeah, that was.
I honestly don't know what to think anymore.
I thought it was just like some random meme person created it. Like, no, it's actually on his official Twitter account.
It's the president of the United States.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's a good shit poster, Donald Trump.
Very good shit poster. Yeah.
Yeah. But when it, I guess like AI isn't at that point, where it's like, I mean, like, I guess some AI is getting better where you don't know if it is real or fake, or even some of the deep fake stuff it's coming really believable. So are you thinking, I guess it gets you questioning now where you're on guard about it, but then are you questioning truthful news now as opposed to now questioning bad news? So you're questioning both. So you're in that state of like, is this real? Is this fake?
Yeah. And there's such a rise of like conspiracy theories as well. That you don't want to be caught up in that side, like where you can just, I guess, like anyone who sort of speaks or questions someone's morals or what's going on, they can almost be like put into that loony bin, I suppose. Like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Now, there's a lot of that out there, right? I mean, someone was telling me the other day that the war in the Ukraine actually isn't happening, and I think, fuck. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Freedom of speech also brings that shit too, You've got to accept that.
Exactly, yeah. That's the good and bad with it, right? So it brings up those things. What I found interesting, I remember a couple of years ago, I can't remember what podcast it was on, but they had some, they're talking about the Russian interference in the election in 2016. They were saying what these Russian troll farms were doing was they'd organise like a Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all those things rally, and at the same time that they organise a pro-American, pro-gun rights, anti-abortion thing, and they schedule it to be at the same date and time and location. Just even it might not have triggered something, but just in case it did, to cause a riot, it will cause tensions in America, like, and just things like that. Like, and that's a government agency doing that. A foreign agitator doing things and interfering in local things like that. So I guess it shows that kind of like how scary those things are. It's like things can be manipulated to cause tensions, but like for the sake of causing tensions. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, it's never been more important to ask why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Double. And I think too another thing to raise about this too, the way it is at the moment with social media is everyone goes into their little echo chambers, and then 100 people like what I said, and then same on the other side, 100 people like what I said here. So that must mean I'm right. Where everyone just wants to hear their own opinions and be confirmed. Like it's like they want confirmation on what they think is correct. So they'll seek out that kind of information to verify it, as opposed to being like, I think this. This other person thinks that. Why do they think that? Let me explore that. Where people go, no, this is right. I found what I want back. So
yeah, and then stories are being tailored to sort of back up
exactly
the algorithm. We're at a real turning point now. I think with that. You're getting into all sorts of grey areas. We see what's like Elon Musk is doing on Twitter.
Yeah. I guess another thing too with him defunding. Was it that he's got that Doge thing going at the moment, and they've fired a bunch of educators and teachers and changing the education system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe I know America doesn't perform the best at the moment, with maths and English and things like that. They're saying, but I don't see how sacking a bunch of teachers is going to help that and make it more efficient. I think it'll make it worse. So, and just where this thing is mirroring where we're talking about intelligence, right? So if you're getting rid of education systems and interfering with it, how's that making it better? Like it's getting towards more. It's coming towards Slesar's prophecy in a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's kind of scary. I guess another thing too. As I touched on earlier, which is I said it earlier at schools and at unis where you're like they want you. I remember when I was in English class that it was my teacher was saying to me like we want your opinion, but it's like do you really want my opinion, or do you want the opinion that fits the text the syllabus,
like within reason?
Within reason, yeah. So, say if you're studying Shakespeare, you go, no, I think he's talking shit here. Like you can't really say that unless you back it up with some evidence that supports their syllabus, kind of thing. Yeah, you can't really go in your own individual thought and a rabbit hole in a way, right? So,
yeah,
I guess
it's all well and good to question, but the society we live in is like within a structure, right?
Exactly.
As soon as you start questioning that structure, you're in a bit of trouble.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's another thing. Like he wanted to, the story touches on. So I guess too another thing too is just the, people just trusting blindly whatever the government says. I think that's another thing he kind of raises in the story as well.
I think definitely back in the time that this story was written in the 50s and 60s, like I guess you used to trust the government implicitly, right? Like, why would they not be telling the truth? Why would they have ulterior motives?
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're doing what's right for the nation. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I can't remember when that turned, but there's almost so much apathy towards any government in the world now. Is that post 9/11? Is that?
Yeah, maybe. I guess that kind of sentiment came around maybe in the 60s and 70s. I think the 60s, especially with the Vietnam War, when they saw that they were blatantly lying and manipulating statistics and misrepresenting what was going on. I think another thing too, because Vietnam War was the first war that was televised, and there was like in World War II they had cameras and stuff, but it was not the same as CBS or someone that on that station
more controlled, right?
Controlled, yeah, where they had free reign to report on anything they wanted. The American government learnt from that too in future wars, where they limited what access the media could have. But I guess people saw like, wait a minute, the government's saying one thing, but then my pictures screen showing me another thing. So why is this happening like that? And then also too with the Richard Nixon Watergate scandal too, that would have brought more distrust of governments and manipulating things to suit their agendas and stuff like that. So I guess the peak of it too, maybe like when the X-Files came out in the 90s, that was all about, oh my God, the government's behind this thing, it's all conspiracy, yeah. So kind of like people like lost trust there.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, quite obviously, the word's thrown around too easily these days, but bit of a genius, right?
Yeah,
a lot of foresight.
Yeah, a lot of foresight, and I think they should. Like, I'm happy to hear that they still teach this in schools today. So it's like definitely a tale. I mean, as we said earlier, the education system isn't always the best, but they do some things right. Like most of the time, I think they do. So, so before we go to like, would you recommend this story to people? Like, if someone asked you, if I want to know a dystopian tale, would this be one of the ones on the list?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would. I like doing these sort of ones. It's a nice, easy read. It's thought provoking. It almost touches on a lot of. There's a bit of Brave New World in it as well.
Yeah.
And obviously that one, I think that was written in the 30s.
The 30s was, yeah.
Yeah. So no doubt that's a massive influence on this, the whole social engineering side of it. But yeah, it's a good introduction into all of that. I would definitely recommend it. And as we already established, very important time now, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty similar as well. And it was just funny because I watched the Twilight Zone I think during the COVID times, actually back in 2021. I distinctly remember this episode thinking it was so sad, but then intriguing at the same time with Dickie's fate. And I didn't look at. I just watched the episode because it was half an episode within an episode, so I kind of just watched it, then moved on. But it did stick with me. But then just to go back to it again and realize, oh no, it was actually a short story interpreted to come an episode of Twilight Zone. So it was really cool to explore that. And it's kind of the first one we've done together where we're both kind of going in a bit blind to it in a way. Yeah, especially with the text. So no, I recommend people to read it. And as I said earlier, I'm glad that they still teach this at schools and stuff. So definitely a good read, an important read.
Very important read.
Yeah, so that'll wrap up this episode. And before we go, just for next week's episode, what can the listeners expect to hear?
Are we doing Akira next week?
Yes, that's correct, Andrew. We are doing Akira. So I've seen this anime film about 3 or 4 times. You haven't seen it yet, have you?
Haven't seen it once. No.
You'll be surprised how many films it's kind of inspired and scenes it's got. And there is a South Park reference in it too. So
we didn't have one this week, did we?
No. Well, this one didn't evoke any South Park references, unfortunately. But Akira does, and when you see the anime, you'll understand.
What year did it come out?
1988.
Yeah, okay.
So it was kind of like the first anime to hit the Western audience, become a global sensation. So, and as I said, inspired a lot of films, both East and West going forward. So it's definitely a pioneer, and it explores dystopian things we talk about. So
yeah, can't wait to give it a watch.
Yeah, perfect. And as always, guys, you can follow us on our Instagram page at Dystopia Pod. Or you can send us an email at info@dystopediapodcast.com. Rate us on your favourite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. iHeartRadio is one of them I saw recently.
iHeartRadio, Podbean.
Podbean, yeah. Whatever you're on, give us 5-star, 1-star. We don't care. As long as you give me some feedback, we appreciate it. So, yeah, that will wrap up this episode, and we hope to catch you next week, guys.
See you then.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.